8:42 p.m., Friday night, suburb north of Raleigh. I stood in the foyer holding her coat. Steam rose from the mug I'd set on the credenza, her usual, black, cinnamon, 2 sugars. Rachel came down the stairs in a black backless dress that looked sprayed on, heels that cost more than my car insurance. No bra straps, no panty lines. She twirled once by the mirror and caught my eye. "No coat?" I asked. She leaned in. I smelled something expensive and citrusy, not her usual scent. She smiled. "No underwear either. Wouldn't want lines in this dress." Then she looked me up and down. Faded flannel, shirt soft from years of washes, boots I've had since our 10th anniversary. "And no, I can't take you. Those worn shoes and that cheap shirt would shame me." A car horn beeped once outside. A white Lexus idled at the curb. She grabbed her clutch and left without saying goodbye. She was meeting her mentorship group. Same ones who called me retired Alan like I was some pet she kept in the sunroom. I didn't yell, didn't cry. I walked to the kitchen, poured her coffee down the sink, and opened the safe behind the spice rack. 32 years married. I met Rachel when we were both 28. I worked logistics for a shipping firm. She was a junior accounts manager. I pulled double shifts, paid off both our student loans. When she wanted to go back for her MBA at 41, I sold the Harley to help. She always said I was her rock. Rocks don't get invited to corporate galas, apparently. Red flags. Should have seen them months ago. She started wearing perfume to Zoom calls, claimed it was habit, changed the password to her MacBook, and left her phone face down constantly. One night, she came back from the gym in full makeup, no sweat, still smelled like hotel soap. I asked how spin class went. She said, "You wouldn't understand. It's a vibe thing." But I wasn't stupid. 2 months ago, I started making copies. Deed to the house, vehicle titles, business registration for the LLC she never bothered reading. When I said I was consulting again, I moved key accounts out of joint access, set up a trust, irrevocable, with me as sole beneficiary, hired a new CPA, quiet one. Said almost nothing, but the guy builds mazes for sport. My kind of man. And before I forget, if you're listening without subscribing, over 97% of you are. Go ahead and hit that button now. It genuinely motivates us to bring you more stories like this one. Stories where the quiet guy isn't the fool. He's just waiting for his cue. So no, I didn't argue. I didn't even text her. What she didn't know was that little comment about my cheap shirt. She was half right. I'd worn it every time I made her coffee, every morning for the last 5 years, but I wouldn't be making it tomorrow. 6:31 a.m. She hit snooze twice. Normally, I'd be setting the tray on her side table by now. Coffee, toast, papaya, her daily supplement packet tucked neatly beside the cloth napkin. But this morning, the tray never came. Instead, she woke to silence. No footsteps, no aroma, just the hum of the HVAC and the distant bark of a neighbor's dog. "Alan?" she called out, voice dry. No answer. She grabbed her phone. One message, no contact name, just text. "The coffee's in the kitchen. You'll need the energy." No punctuation, no emojis, just that. She pulled on a robe, the silk one I bought her in Bali, and headed downstairs barefoot. The kitchen lights were already on. The coffee machine had finished its cycle. Black brew still steaming in the pot, untouched. A single cup sat next to it, no cinnamon, no sugar, and next to the cup, a sealed manila envelope. She opened it with a knife from the drawer. Inside, a single page. Revocation of durable power of attorney for shared property and joint affairs. Notarized, dated, signed, effective as of 12:04 a.m. Time-stamped precisely 4 minutes after midnight. She stared at it. Her name struck through in 2 places. The signature block labeled former authorized party. Not spouse, just that, cold and clinical. She checked the document ID. It had been filed digitally through the county system, validated and already processed. Not a draft, not a threat. Done. She stood there, robe slightly open, the marble floor cold beneath her feet, looking at the paper like it might change if she blinked enough times. Alan hadn't just gotten angry. He'd gotten ahead. He didn't throw anything, didn't pack a bag. He just revoked her access to the kingdom she forgot he built. This was the moment the routine cracked. The invisible labor she never saw, him waking early, cooking, fixing, paying, preparing, had just gone offline. System rebooted, and she was no longer admin. And the coffee? Still sitting on the counter, cooling. but she drank it anyway, because the unease creeping up her spine was bigger than the bitterness in that cup, and as she took her second sip, she missed the most important detail. On the envelope flap, barely visible, was a stamp from Grayson and Field, LLP, a firm she'd never heard of. She would, very soon, Monday morning. Rachel walked into the downtown office like nothing had changed. Burgundy coat draped over one shoulder, sunglasses still on indoors, the same look she wore to the party when she toasted champagne with regional VPs and casually referred to me as semi-retired, a man who likes books more than people. Her boss laughed. Someone asked if I'd be coming to next quarter's offsite. She rolled her eyes. Alan prefers to stay off the grid, she'd said, unless it's Jeopardy night. That was Friday. By Tuesday, the cracks started showing. At 8:17 a.m., her corporate Amex was declined at the valet stand. She brushed it off. Try it again. The kid did. Same beep. She handed over a different card, our joint one, and mentally flagged it to yell at me later. At 10:32 a.m., her assistant knocked quietly on her glass door and handed over a printed email, notice of dependent policy suspension. The subject line felt off. Rachel skimmed the content. It wasn't about health coverage, it was perks. The BMW her firm covered for exec families, now uninsured. The automatic renewal had been voided. She called the insurance liaison. They said the company car was tied to her spousal affiliation with the Danner Group. And the Danner Group, per updated LLC records, had officially revised its list of recognized household beneficiaries. She wasn't on it. Rachel slammed the phone down, called me, straight to voicemail. She sent a message. Alan, can you explain why my name is no longer on the insurance doc for the car? Read, no reply, then a second message, shorter. Are you seriously doing this? No read receipt. At 2:44 p.m., her assistant buzzed again. This time she walked in slowly and shut the door behind her. I didn't want to email this, she said, but the new compliance officer just flagged the dependent perks roster. He froze it. Rachel blinked. What does that mean? It means they've decoupled your name from his business registration. You're not on the corporate access structure anymore. Rachel frowned. I wasn't on the payroll. No, but you were linked through spousal privilege. It's gone. She turned to her screen, pulled up the internal directory. Sure enough, the Danner Group's corporate profile had been updated. Her name was missing from the family perks section. Her ID wasn't even tied to the employee wellness portal. The bio that used to list spouse Rachel Danner, VP Marketing, Tier 2 beneficiary, now ended in a single word. None. She opened the drawer, pulled out the black binder that held her benefit summaries. She flipped to the legal carve-out page where Allen's LLC had once been listed as a partner entity. A new footer had been added, revised per dissolution of household affiliation. Effective 12:04 a.m. Saturday. Same timestamp as the coffee envelope. Rachel closed the binder slowly. Her office suddenly felt smaller. The floor-to-ceiling windows weren't letting in light. They were exposing her. She used to joke that I was harmless, that Alan's the last guy in America who still balances a checkbook. What she never asked was why I always knew how many steps it took to shut off a pipeline. She thought silence was retreat, but silence can also be a redesign. And by midweek, the foundation she stood on was beginning to shift. Next came the bank, and the manila envelope I'd placed behind her jewelry box, the one she hadn't found yet. She would, soon. Wednesday, 10:06 a.m. Rachel walked into Hembry & Knox, the private wealth firm we'd used since 2008. The receptionist recognized her instantly, called her Mrs. Danner, offered a cappuccino, smiled like nothing had changed. She declined the coffee. I'd like to review the allocations in the Hembry Trust, she said, setting her tote down and smoothing her blazer, and the disbursement calendar for Q1. The receptionist blinked. Of course. One moment. She tapped a few keys, frowned, then excused herself to the back. 5 minutes passed. Then a woman in a navy suit, senior polished, stepped out, not their usual advisor. Mrs. Danner, she said, not unkindly, would you mind joining me in the conference room? Rachel followed, no warm-up chat, just a sleek glass table, one chair already pulled out. A folder waited at her spot, no name on it. The woman sat across from her, folded her hands. We received notice 3 nights ago from Mr. Danner's new counsel. Your name has been formally removed as a co-signer and joint authorized account holder, effective as of midnight, Saturday. Rachel's jaw clenched. Excuse me? The woman slid the folder forward. Inside, copies of the revised trust documents, all above board, time-stamped, digitally signed. You're welcome to review the papers, but I'll save you the trouble. He enacted a trigger clause baked into the original charter, Section 12B. It grants him unilateral retraction rights in the event of public conduct violations, asset exposure risk, or breakdown of cohabitation. All three boxes are now legally satisfied. Rachel leaned back, stunned. This is outrageous. That clause was theoretical. Alan never even... The woman cut her off politely. He executed it very cleanly, honestly. Rare level of planning. He pre-positioned the filing window 6 months ago, had all the notarized documents time-stamped by a third-party registrar in advance. I've never seen a cleaner cascade trigger. Rachel tried to call our old advisor. Straight to voicemail. She asked to leave a message. The front desk girl handed her a sticky note. Tell Mr. Danner. Very clean execution. Impressive structure. Rachel left the building in silence. Out on the street, her phone buzzed. A delayed alert from the vehicle app. Insurance expired. Lockout initiated. She looked down the street at her BMW, parked 2 blocks away. She started walking faster. She always thought my spreadsheets were overkill. Thought it was cute that I tracked legal calendar reminders like birthdays. But that bank account, that trust, that was the pillar. That was the quiet vault she never thought to open. Because she assumed the combination was love. It wasn't. It was leverage. And the man who used to bring her papaya on a silver tray had just erased her name from the future she'd already spent. She wasn't written out of the story. She'd been redrafted. Friday night. Uptown ballroom. Crystal chandeliers, endless white wine, those string quartet renditions of pop songs no one admits they like. Rachel arrived solo. Again, her 3rd solo event in 6 weeks. She wore a silver sheath dress this time, different from the black one. Slightly more coverage, but not much. Her boss, Gregory Klein, SVP Strategy, was already half a scotch deep when she approached. Married, 2 grown kids, reputation for mentoring assertive women. HR's had his file flagged for years, but nothing ever stuck. Rachel knew the game. She played it better than most. By hour 2, he was leaning closer, his hand resting just a beat too long on her lower back, whispering things into her ear that made her laugh too loud, too long. She liked the attention, liked being seen as the sophisticated one, the social one, the one who could charm a room while her semi-retired husband stayed home playing with spreadsheets. He really let himself go, huh? Klein muttered, swirling his drink. Rachel smirked. He's stuck in the past. Always was. They shared a look, lingering, loaded. By the time dessert was served, she'd collected 3 compliments, 2 future lunch invites, and a smug sense of control, until a server approached her table. Young guy, clean haircut, vest too big for his frame. Mrs. Danner? He asked quietly. She looked up, irritated. Yes? He handed her a plain black envelope. No return name, no logo, just weight. It felt heavy. She opened it immediately, assuming it was a PR packet or donor pitch, but it wasn't. First page, a single photo. Black and white, security cam still. Rachel, in her black dress, stepping into the white Lexus at the curb. Head turned, lips smirking. Time-stamped. Friday, 8:43 p.m. The exact moment she'd dismissed me at our front door. Second page, a section of her prenup highlighted. Paragraph 7C, subclause 2. In the event of documented public behavior deemed reputationally damaging or suggestive of marital misrepresentation, beneficiary asset access shall be suspended pending independent review. Below that, in handwriting she knew too well, on a sticky note, You said I'd shame you. She stared at the page. The room spun. The quartet was playing something upbeat, probably Ed Sheeran disguised as Mozart. Her hand clenched the envelope like it might grow teeth. She turned to find Klein, but he'd wandered off, mid-flirt with a new hire. Rachel excused herself from the table, went straight to the coat check, and walked out into the night air, without waiting for her car. She thought I was too soft to ever act, too quiet to see what was right in front of me. She was wrong on both counts because I hadn't planted cameras, I hadn't hired a PI, I hadn't hacked anything. I just knew which part of the prenup she never read, the one I revised 5 years ago, the one she initialed between bites of creme brulee at that fancy restaurant when I told her it was just a standard update for estate purposes. And now her behavior didn't need judgment, it just needed documentation. She handed me the evidence herself, and the clause did the rest. Saturday, late morning. Rachel was mid-pedicure at a spa in Chapel Hill when her father called. Unusual, he never interrupted her time. His voice was tight, clipped. "Are you free now?" She blinked. "Is something wrong?" "I just got off the phone with First Meridian." Rachel sat up straighter. That was the family bank, the one that handled their trust accounts, the charitable foundation her father and Alan co-managed, the one with both their names etched on the donor wall at Wexford General. "They said there's a restructuring," her father went on, "effective last night. You were removed as a signatory." Rachel frowned. "That can't be right. It's a joint asset. It was set up under our marriage clause." He didn't answer right away. Then, "The marital co-directorship has been dissolved." "What does that even mean?" "It means the paperwork's already been processed. Alan invoked Clause E of the foundation charter, says he's realigning the board." Rachel stood, letting the nail technician awkwardly retract the foot bath. "I'll call him," she said, grabbing her bag. "I already tried. He won't take the meeting." "Then I'll call his attorney." But when she did, the woman at the front desk paused after hearing her name, then read from a note. "Mr. Danner no longer shares counsel with you. Any inquiries must be routed through independent representation." Rachel's mouth went dry. "Excuse me?" The woman repeated it, word for word, then hung up. At 7:12 p.m. that night, Rachel walked into her parents' home. She found her father in his study, drink in hand, fire on low. He didn't look up. "You didn't think this would touch the foundation?" he asked, flat. "I didn't think he'd do this." Her father turned, eyes red. "You don't get it, do you? He didn't do this out of spite. He did it with precision. He built every clause, every fallback, every governance layer." "It's temporary," she said weakly. "He'll come around. He's just—" Glass shattered. Her father had hurled his tumbler against the bookshelf. The impact sent shards into the carpet and cracked the corner of a framed photo, Alan, her dad, and the governor at a ribbon cutting from 6 years ago. "You lost," he growled. "The one man keeping the machine from turning on you." Rachel flinched. "He shielded us, quietly, legally, while you chased cocktail parties and image. And now, the lawyers are circling. The board's nervous. The money's starting to look fragile. You think your mother's legacy survives another audit like the one from '09? She stared at the broken glass. "It's not gone," she whispered. "He wouldn't nuke everything." He looked at her then, really looked, and said, "He didn't nuke anything. He rewired it, while you weren't watching." Rachel left without another word. She didn't sleep that night, because she finally understood. Alan never wanted revenge. He wanted control. And now, he had it. Thursday night, 7:05 p.m. Rachel stood at the edge of the kitchen island, breath shallow, trying to salvage what little presence she still had in the professional world. It was a last-ditch move, hosting a private dinner for 2 international clients and their local reps. Keep the wine flowing, serve a catered meal, distract them with charm and legacy, pretend everything was fine, that her name still meant something. But the signs came fast. First, the wine delivery, delayed, then rerouted. The driver texted, "Sorry, address was temporarily blacklisted, had to verify before release." Next, the chef canceled last minute. "Emergency with my kitchen staff," he said. Sounded rehearsed. Avoided her follow-up call. So she adjusted, set the table herself, reheated frozen mushroom risotto and unwrapped grocery store canapes onto ceramic platters, passed it off as minimalist entertaining. But at 8:17 p.m., just as she poured the first glass of wine, the lights flickered, once, then again, then died entirely. Not just the chandeliers, everything. Kitchen, hallway, patio lanterns, even the landscape lights in the backyard, the entire house dimmed to black. Gasps, Awkward chuckles. One of the clients muttered something in German. Rachel rushed to the basement, heels clacking against hardwood, found the breaker box, yanked it open. Everything was fine. No trip switches, nothing out of place. That's when her phone buzzed, a number she didn't recognize. Check clause 6B of the property deed. That was all it said. Heart pounding, she went to the filing cabinet in her office, flipped through the labeled folders until she found the deed packet. Clause 6B, page in small print, buried under subheaders and legal boilerplate. In the event of marital occupancy reclassification, all primary utility and infrastructure contracts shall transfer to the grantor named in Exhibit A. Said grantor retains discretionary control over restoration timelines and emergency protocol for maintenance requests. She turned to Exhibit A. Alan Danner. The clause was real, and it had already been enacted. The deed had been updated on file weeks ago. Electronic signature. Registered with the county. It wasn't a glitch. The lights didn't fail. They were shut off. By him, from wherever he was. A calculated reminder this wasn't her house anymore. Not fully, not legally. She'd been allowed to occupy it, granted use, not ownership. And now the man she'd mocked for fixating on property documents had built an electrical noose around her and yanked it, just tight enough to leave marks, but not enough to kill the illusion. Back upstairs, guests sat in the darkened dining room. One was already checking his watch. Another quietly excused himself to make a call. Rachel lit candles, apologized, tried to laugh it off. Older house, you know how it goes. But she knew, and so did he. This dinner wasn't a comeback. It was a eulogy. And the walls around her? They weren't hers anymore. Not the power, not the water, not even the air conditioning. Everything she stood on had Alan's name under it, and he'd just flipped the switch. Monday, 9:04 a.m. Rachel was still in pajamas, hair pinned up, 2-day-old coffee warming on the stove when the doorbell rang. She peered through the peephole expecting Amazon, maybe a florist. For a second, her heart foolishly hoped it was Alan. A peace offering. An opening. It wasn't. The woman standing on the porch was in her early 30s, polished but not flashy. Charcoal pantsuit, no jewelry, hair neat, folder tucked under her arm, government shoes, the kind made for walking across courtrooms and thresholds like this. Rachel cracked the door an inch. Yes? Good morning. Mrs. Danner? Rachel stiffened. Ex-Mrs. Danner. The woman smiled, unfazed. Understood. I'm here on behalf of the Danner Living Trust. You're currently occupying Mr. Danner's property under a terminated agreement. Rachel blinked. I'm what? The woman opened the folder and handed over a printed packet. Stamped, signed, notarized. Legalese packed tightly between 3 crisp tabs. Per the post-nuptial terms and amended deed provisions, your right to occupy this residence was conditional on cohabitation and good faith marital engagement. Those conditions were nullified last month. You now have 14 calendar days to vacate. After that, formal eviction proceedings begin. Rachel's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Finally, this is my home. The woman pointed to the top line of the document. Owner of record, Danner Living Trust. Trustee Alan R. Danner. Occupancy authorization revoked. Notice served November 3rd, 9:04 a.m. You may, of course, consult your legal counsel, the woman added, but you'll find the timeline is airtight. Rachel grabbed the folder and slammed the door. Her hands were shaking. She ran upstairs, yanked open the file drawer Alan used to manage, flipped through tabs she never bothered reading, found the post-nup, buried behind health insurance and HVAC warranties. It was all there. Section 8C. Occupancy privileges may be terminated unilaterally by trustee in the event of dissolution or reputational harm to cohabitant party. Subsection 3. Upon revocation, resident party shall be considered a guest. No legal right of residency shall apply. She wasn't a co-owner. She wasn't even a tenant. She was a guest. And now, an unwelcome one. Her hands balled into fists, she slammed the file shut, eyes stinging. The same walls she painted, the kitchen she remodeled, the closet she filled with tailored dresses, All of it was never truly hers. She thought Alan was the type to brood, not build. She thought legalese was boring. She thought love was leverage. But Alan had rewritten the rules while she played games with her boss and laughed at my shirt. And now the house, her house, had already cast its vote. She just hadn't heard the door close behind her yet. Thursday afternoon, dermatology clinic. Rachel sat in a beige vinyl chair, flipping aimlessly through a stack of magazines meant for people 10 years older or 20 pounds lighter. She wasn't really reading, just killing time before her consultation. The room smelled like antiseptic and eucalyptus. A kid coughed in the hallway. She reached for a thin local publication near the bottom of the pile. Triangle Executive Weekly, mostly vanity profiles of small-time CEOs and real estate guys pretending to be visionaries. She opened it halfway, then froze. There he was, Alan, on the cover, gray stubble, trim, tailored charcoal suit, simple black watch, not smiling but not cold either, just still, focused, like a man in complete possession of himself. The headline read, "Quiet Empire, the man who built without noise." She blinked, flipped to page 6. It wasn't a puff piece, it was a full profile. 4,000 words, quotes from former partners, 2 mentions of patent litigation he'd won quietly in arbitration, a pull quote right under a photo of him standing on the balcony of a downtown high-rise. Sometimes silence isn't surrender, it's planning. She swallowed hard. That line hit like a punch to the ribs. The article described how Alan had started licensing small IP blocks from failed startups. Nothing sexy, data models, manufacturing frameworks, back-end automation protocols. While Rachel was busy working the corporate PR circuit, Alan had built a latticework of royalties and quiet acquisitions. One former CTO called him the guy who collects overlooked gold. Now, his firm had just closed a Series C valuation at $74 million. Rachel stared at the page like it might change if she glared long enough. There was a section about how he never gave interviews, that he turned down panels and galas. "I'd rather keep building than talk about it." They quoted him as saying that over a glass of tea in his modest but strategically located downtown workspace. Not a mansion, not a yacht, just precision. The irony made her stomach turn. That night, Rachel stood in front of her closet, the one Alan had custom fitted for her 6 birthdays ago. Shelves of leather bags, rows of shoes, dresses sorted by sleeve length and designer label. The lighting was warm, the kind that made silk look even smoother. She looked at it all, the glamour, the curated image, everything she'd bought to play the part of someone ahead of the curve, but none of it fit anymore. Not because of size, because of silence. Alan hadn't left her to get away. He left to surpass her, and he did, without ever raising his voice, without trying to shame her back. While she was busy mocking his shirts, he was designing an empire she couldn't even spell the floor plan of. He didn't win. He outgrew her, and the real sting, he never needed to say it out loud. 2 weeks. That's how long the notice gave her. 14 days from envelope to exit. The movers arrived at 9 o'clock a.m. sharp. Neutral uniforms, no small talk. Rachel didn't offer coffee. Didn't know where the filters were. The house felt like a hotel now. Too clean, too echoey. The furniture had been tagged in advance. Some to storage, most to auction. She'd tried to contest it. Her lawyer gave her a look she couldn't unsee. "You signed everything," he'd said. He just activated it. By 11:20, the house was mostly hollow. Bedroom stripped, art taken down. Even the rug from the front hall, the one Alan always straightened every morning without her ever noticing, was rolled up and gone. The last box was carried out at 11:56. Then, oddly, one of the movers returned a moment later, carrying something not boxed at all. A tray, silver, familiar. Rachel's breath caught. It was that tray, the one from the early days. The one Alan used every morning when he brought her coffee, even when he had early calls, even when she'd barely grunt in thanks. The mover set it gently on the kitchen island. No eye contact. Just placed it there with the kind of respect reserved for heirlooms. On the tray, a single mug, steam still rising, freshly brewed, exactly how she liked it, black, cinnamon, 2 sugars, and beside it, folded neatly, a single note in Alan's handwriting. Firm, straight, centered. "Didn't forget your coffee, just changed where I serve it." Rachel stood frozen. Her hands shook, but she didn't reach for the mug. The smell alone hit harder than anything in the legal notices. The tray, the coffee, his script, the memory of that night, the cheap shirt, the look in his eyes, the exact moment she mistook silence for surrender. This wasn't revenge. It was a signature. Upstairs, her walk-in closet was empty, but on the back of the door, one shirt remained. His flannel, soft, faded, her knees buckled. She sank to the cold tile floor, not because of what he took, but because of how quietly he'd always been holding everything. Across town, on the 12th floor of a modest glass tower, Alan sat at a round table with 4 other men. Portfolio review, patent renewals. One intern nervously fumbled with a PowerPoint remote. "Sorry," he mumbled, "just a little jittery." Alan glanced up, smiled faintly, stirred his coffee, the same mug he used every morning at home. Nothing fancy, just steady. Someone across the table chuckled, "You always this calm." Alan didn't flinch, just said, "Depends on the coffee." Then he turned the page in his notebook and moved on. No speech, no celebration, just quiet, just the way he liked it.